Hey y'all, Joefer here, the cranky old gay guy. It is Wednesday, the 11th of December, and today's episode is Are You a Ganymede? I know. I didn't know what a Ganymede was either until I looked it up. Because I was scrolling, opened my Fire TV, and this movie popped up called Ganymede. And it was like a gay and lesbian themed thing. So I watched it so you don't have to. Whew, and it was something else. It is the story about a young man in a small town who his father is like a city commissioner and his mother is a stay-at-home housewife, and the father is super Christian, and everything is by the rule of the Lord, and which means whatever the dad says goes. Son, you keep jogging until I tell you to stop. Son, sit down and eat. Son, say a prayer. Son, go to bed now. Son, go running right now. Son, you're going to go out and wrestle right now. Son, you're going to win your wrestling match. Son this, son that. Son. Son, you're going to pay back to the community, so you're going to go pick up garbage on the side of the street. That's the house that this kid lives in. And there's this gay kid at school who thinks that this Christian kid is kind of cute. He's kind of got the hots for him, actually. And it's this adorable Latin boy with big, beautiful brown eyes that just look at the camera. And the Christian kid is white, middle America, great body, lean, kind of got an older looking face, I think. Kind of like this all the time, squinting and like always a serious look. Anyway, you can tell that the athletic kid, the Christian kid, is unhappy. His mother's unhappy. His father is a tyrant, absolute tyrant. Everyone at school falls into this whole religious Christian. The whole town is Christian. He doesn't feel that he fits into Christianity because he has thoughts about boys. Well, the gay kid doesn't fit in either. And his best friend is a girl, and they both really like this Christian kid. But the Latin boy, I don't remember his name, or I'd use his name, sees that the Christian kid is signing up to pick up garbage, so he goes and volunteers as well. Now, the guidance counselor who handles all of this volunteer work, she's a hoot, I must add. She is the comedic relief in this movie. And I don't know if she's supposed to be comedic or if she's just kind of supposed to be ditzy. But no one in this film acts like they do acting for a living. The mother I've seen in something before, but I don't know if it's the way she's directed, but she's super pensive and emotional and unhappy in every scene. And the rest of them really aren't super actors. And there is one regular actor coming up, and I'll get to that. Anyway, the mom, okay, the boys are out picking up garbage. They talk a little bit, briefly. The younger Latin boy has had a crush on this guy since the 3rd grade or something, when they had to share a book in some class, and then haven't spoken really since. And the Latin guy reminds him about this, the book, and the Christian guy goes, oh yeah, that was such and such a book. So he remembers him, and they get to talking, and then they start getting close to each other, and they start to hold hands, and then I think they kiss briefly, and then they pull apart, and this car races by, and 2 hooligans from the high school get out of the car and start calling him slang terms. And but it wasn't just butthead, it was something but. But anyway, they were calling the Latin boy this, and the Christian boy stood up for them and got between the bully that was coming after the kid, and he ends up punching the bully. The bully takes a swing, and he punches the bully and bloodies his nose. He runs back to his car. calls the Christian boy, "You're crazy. You must both be F's." And they drive away. They get home. The Latin boy gets home, and the boy had pushed him down, so he's got a... Did he? I'm getting ahead of myself. The Christian boy gets home, and he's got bloody knuckles, and they want to know what happened to his parents. And he told them that he was picking up garbage, and these guys came by, and he had to protect someone he was picking up garbage with. And they wanted to know who, and when they mentioned the name, the mother freaked out and said, "You have to stay away from that boy. He's evil. He's going to bring sin to you. He's going to corrupt you. Stay away from him. He's not of Jesus's friend," or something. And the kid tries to speak up, and then the father shuts him down. So he just sits there and eats his dinner. So his father then bans him from ever being around this kid again, because he's running for re-election and he doesn't want anything to mess up his chances, okay? He's being selfish is what he's doing. Okay, let's see. The father asks the son if he's having reprobate thoughts. Now, I didn't even know what reprobate thoughts were until I saw this movie. Evidently, that just means that you're thinking about boys. At least that's the definition in this film. So, dad and mom starts crying, and dad says, "We're going to take care of this. Do you want to be taken care of?" He goes, "Yeah, Dad, I want you to fix me." So he takes him to the church. And by the way, their church is like a cinder block building with just a sign stuck to it. It's obviously not a church. They didn't have a budget for a church or a set, so they just found an old cinder block building and call it a church. And by the way, they do show one scene prior to this where they're all in church, and the preacher is a loudmouth, know-it-all as well, bossy. And for some reason, he points out the father in the crowd who's running for re-election. Politics and church don't mix, but he's called out, as our city commissioner, and he's going to bring Jesus, keep Jesus in the town or something. Small towns like that just get on my nerves. Anyhow, he takes the boy after hours to the church, he said, "We're going to start tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. And it must be the weekend because he's not going to school. And he takes him to the church and leaves him alone with the preacher. And the preacher is an actor. Don't remember his name. He was in Anchorman. I think he was the sports announcer or the weather announcer in the Anchorman movies. He's been in a lot of films, but they're all those kind of goofy films. He's a comedic actor. He plays it serious, but it comes off as comedic. In this film, he plays it very serious. He's not funny at all. And it's almost like he blends in with the other people that can't act. But I know he can act because I've seen him act in the past. And he asks the boy says, how do you know you can fix me? And he goes, "Because I have already done this before." And he goes, "To who?" And he goes, "You're looking at it. It was me." And he had told the father that he had been a reprobate as well at one point. But he found Jesus and turned his life around. So he asked the kid if he wants help, and the kid is crying and saying, "Yeah, I want help." And he goes, "Okay, lay down on the couch." After he's touched him several times, putting his arm up on him and that kind of thing. And I thought, okay, he's going to molest him. No, he didn't molest him. He tortured him. He laid him back and he put a mouth guard in his mouth. And he said, "Okay, close your eyes, and I want you to think of that Latin boy." And he goes, he goes, "Think of the Latin boy." And as he starts thinking of the Latin boy, he takes 2 electrical probes, comes up from behind the kid, and puts them on his temples like this. And the kid's going, "Ah!" for like 10, 15 seconds. And then he's all traumatic because he's just had electroshock therapy. Now, why does the Reverend have this? It just looks like a big old battery with a dial and some switches on it with red lights. And then jumper cables that come out to these pads that he sticks. And the pads are like sticks with circles on the top, like records, only they're covered in cotton or something. And he just, no lube or anything, he just puts them here. And when you get electroshock therapy, it does leave a mark. The next day, the kid's at school, and I can see the red, but no one seems to ask him about that. And then he has to go back to the church for to check in with the Reverend. And the Reverend says, "So how you doing?" And he goes, "I'm okay." And he goes, are you having any reprobate thoughts? And he said, yeah, I'm still thinking about it. He goes, okay, lay down on the couch. And he went and did this thing again. Now, let me think here. Later on, the kid is at home, the Christian kid. He's upstairs in his room, and they're having a dinner party or something downstairs that's a re-election campaign thing, and all the elderly citizens are gathered in this house. And, talking about how great he's going to be is re-elected and is BS. The guy upstairs hears something, or he gets a text. I think he gets a text. And it's a Latin boy. And he says, look out your window. And he looks out and he's standing there. And he goes, I want to talk to you. I'm coming in. And the Christian boy goes, no. Go to the back door. Go to the back door. We can't let anyone see you here. Because his parents have banned him from being around him. So he sneaks him in the back door, and they go up to the bedroom. And while they are there, they end up holding hands and then kissing. And then the Christian boy opens his eyes, and he sees this ugly creature, demon monster, kissing him. And he screams and yells and runs over and falls down on the floor. Now, the Christian kid, the way that we see he's having these weird thoughts throughout the episode, he'll just he'll be running or something, and then he'll feel like he's being chased by this creature. It's got like a beak and a curved beak and claws, and it's all in black and looks like a large tar baby. And he doesn't know what it is, and he's running from it. And he also, at one point, when in the early of the show, they show some guy tie cinder blocks around his neck and walk at the end of a dock and drown himself. Well, while the guy is jogging in the beginning of the movie, I'm jumping all over the place, I know. I watched it last week. Anyway, he is running and he sees the water, and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to go skinny dipping. This is before I knew how Christian he was. Nope, he just gets in the water and jumps in, and he goes down, and then you see him underwater, and he's seeing something move and come towards him, and it's this monster thing. So he screams, and then the next scene he's passed out laying on the bank, and he's covered in water and he's soaked, and he had gone running in the evening. And he comes in the house, and his parents are waiting to have breakfast, and his clothes are wet, and they don't ask where he's been. They didn't know, I guess, that he was out all night, and it's a school day. I couldn't follow, because I don't know any parents that if your kid was out all night and you didn't know where they were, and then they come back and they're covered, they're just soaked the next day, and it's not raining. You'd think there's something going on, or you'd think at least they'd ask, but they don't even ask him. That was odd. Throughout the day, he'll be looking in a mirror or something, and then he'll see this creature behind him. They show him running a lot, and after every run, he runs to the locker room at school and he takes a shower. He's always the only one in the locker room. Even though he's a wrestler and there's other people, he's always in there showering by himself, and it's always after a run, and it's either early in the morning or it's late at night. How does he have keys to the school? Maybe they don't lock it. It's a small town. Who knows? Anyway, jump back to the bedroom scene. Him and the Latin boy kiss. He runs, yells, makes a lot of noise, falls over on the floor. The Latin boy goes over and says, it's okay, and he hugs him. Just as he hugs him, the father opens up the door and sees him. The mother's right behind. She breaks out in tears. The father grabs the Latin boy, drags him down the stairs in front of all of the guests, and he said, this kid broke into my house and he's trying to steal from us. And then he goes to the front porch and he throws him down the stairs. The Latin guy hits his face. He gets a big mark on, I think, this side of his face. He goes back in. He talks to everyone and says, it's okay. Thanks for coming this evening. I guess they were all getting ready to leave. And they go home, but the Reverend sticks around behind. He said, I see what's going on. And he tells him about this thing called a Ganymede. And the father goes, well, what's that? And he goes, Ganymede is an unrepentant homosexual who attracts demons. And let me just find this. A Ganymede is an unrepentant homosexual with demonic forces that overtake others with sex urges. And the father goes, oh, we can't have that in our house. And that's when the Reverend tells him about, well, I can cure this. And the father says, how do you know? He goes, because I cured myself 20 years ago. Okay? Pause for just a moment. Okay. So he tells him that he could heal himself, and that's why he knows what he's doing. And the father said, that sounds great. We want to do that. We don't want any unrepentant homosexuals with demonic forces in this house. So the next day, he goes up and he confronts his son, and that's when his son starts crying and saying, yeah, I don't want to be this way. I want to change. I want to be healed. So that's when they set up the whole appointment thing. Okay. Fast forward, what is this? I'm trying to think what happened. Something happens. Can you tell how much I was into this movie? Something happens where the Christian guy freaks out again, and he's with the Latin boy somewhere, and he takes off. And the Latin boy follows him. The Christian guy runs. He has demonic thoughts, or he sees this reptilian monster thing again, the Ganymede. And evidently the monster is also the Ganymede, but the Ganymede is also unrepentant homosexual, so evidently this is a queer monster. At least that's what I get from this script. He runs to this cinder block church, and he goes to a side door and opens it, and he's in an apartment. He's in the studio apartment of the chaplain preacher guy who gave him shock treatments. And he locks the door, he runs over to the couch, or he runs over and he drags this big machine away from the wall, gets down on the couch, does not put a mouth guard in, and he holds these paddles up, and the Latin guy's following him. He's looking in the window, he's yelling at him, saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And the kid sticks the probes on his head, and he starts freaking out, and he's just doing this for a long time. And the Latin kid breaks the window with his elbow and goes inside and pulls him away from him to save the guy. In the meantime, the mother of the Latin boy, after the councilman has pulled him out of the house and thrown him down the stairs, his mom comes back and rips into the council guy at his porch. He's saying, get off my property. And she goes, I know about you. You hit my son. Don't you ever lay hands on him again, or I will kill you, or something like this. I know what happened. I'm jumping ahead again. Early on in the show, the Latin boy is an artist and a musician, and he's in a talent show or something. He's got a contest or a song he wrote, and he's going to do this and play the keyboard and stuff. And the Christian kid had told him, yeah, I'll be there. I promise I'll be there. Well, he wasn't. And the Latin boy was up on stage playing, and the Christian boy came in the back of the room, and he saw him. And somewhere during that time, during the performance, he kept having thoughts of making out with this Latin boy. And when he did that, he saw the demon, and he started screaming. And the whole auditorium stopped, and they're all looking at him. And he runs outside, and that's when the Latin boy follows him and says, hey, are you okay? And then he takes off running, and the Latin boy chases him, and that's when they go to the church where the Christian boy is going to give himself some shock treatments. Well, the Latin boy's mom was in the audience, and she starts calling the Latin boy, going, where are you? Where are you? Or texting him, and he's not answering. And by the way, the Latin boy's mom is a nurse. When the Latin boy pulls the probes away from the kid's temple and is hugging him, he calls his mom and says, Mom, I need your help. She says, where are you? He tells her. She rushes over there to give him first aid. And the next scene, the Reverend, when he's, what is it? I'm so confused. He pulls the paddles away from the Christian boy's head and is trying to help him. And then the Reverend comes out of nowhere and grabs the Latin boy and starts choking him or something. And they wrestle a bit. And somehow he hits the Reverend on the head or something. He knocks the Reverend out, and then he falls back on the couch. And that's when he calls his mom and says, "Mom, I'm in trouble. Help." She shows up, and the next scene is a couple ambulances, and they're hauling away the Reverend, and they're hauling away the Christian boy. And the moms talk, and the Christian mom says, I'm so sorry all this happened. And she's really thankful that this woman and her son were helping her son. Well, then she ends up confronting her father, the commission guy, who is very, very angry and upset. And the mother finally stands up to him and says, you didn't let me protect my brother when he was in trouble, and I'm not going to let you do that to our son. And that's pretty much it for that. And prior to this scene, before she gets the call that her son is going to the hospital, she has a vision of her brother, who is the guy that jumped off the dock at the very beginning of the movie. And he comes to her and says, you could have helped me. I had nowhere to go, but you wouldn't let me stay with you. And the mother says, no, it was my husband. He wouldn't let you in the house because you're a homosexual. And the husband, throughout the show, every time the brother's name would come up, he'd say, we don't say that name in this house. He was evil. He was a demon. So after the ghost of her brother frightens her, that's when she has a change of heart and then finds out her son's going to the hospital, and then she confronts the husband. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. It's not the end of the movie. The end of the movie is the Christian boy and the Latin boy in the kitchen of, I don't know which house. I think the Latin boy's house. And then there's a knock at the door, and this good-looking high school boy comes in, and it was one of the bullies that got in a fight with them when they were picking up garbage. And the Latin boy at the time had said, oh, he's just in the closet. And the guy's, I'm not a F, go whatever yourself. And at one point during the show, he comes up to the Latin boy and him passing the hall or something. He goes, and the bully has a bloody nose because he had been punched. And he goes, what happened to your head? Did the Christian boy do this? And he goes, no, his father did. And then that was it, that scene. And then another scene, they pass again, and the bully asked him if he wants to hook up. And the Latin boy goes, I don't date closet cases. And the bully said, who said anything about dating? Give me a call. And anyway, at the end, you have two happy homosexuals with one of the parents, and the bully comes in and he's a happy homosexual now too. So that's Ganymede. And I guess I have to take this opportunity to come out. It's not National Coming Out Day, but I am going to come out as Ganymede myself, because I am very unrepentant when it comes to being a homosexual. And I'm sure a lot of you are probably Ganymedes and you just didn't know it. Now, when I looked up Ganymede, the pastor, and his name was Pastor Royer in the movie, said that the Ganymede is mentioned in some Bible verse as being this demonic sex demon. According to Wikipedia, it does not appear in the New Testament anywhere, and I think that's where the pastor said it was. Also, the only definition I could find was that it is someone who helps the gods. He's like a go-between, carrying goblets or something. And one of the definitions, he was this really good-looking go-between back in Greek mythology. No mention of him being a homosexual or anything to do with demonic forces. However, that's the story that this movie foretold, and so there you have it. Are you a Ganymede? If you feel the need to come out as a Ganymede, please do so in our comment section. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Wednesday evening, and I will see you next time. Bye.
So I was watching a movie, and this came to mind. They mentioned a Ganymede, and I was thinking what kind. I looked up the meaning on Wiki online. It could be a planet's moon or a good-looking young guy. But I think in this movie it was an evil carnate. Then they said it was gay thing, so I couldn't hesitate. I had to ask this question right away. Am I a Ganymede? Does that mean that I'm gay? An unrepentant homosexual, a stoic guy who's ineffectual. That's me, a beautiful youth in classic mythology, carried off to Olympus to be Zeus's key. The cupbearer of the gods, yes, that's what he'll be. Made forever young with eternal beauty. I had to ask this question right away.